We once drove a 2-seat MG convertible across the country. We had a tent and a single change of clothes. Dwayne wanted to go swimming in the Pacific. I think he thought that the Washington coast was similar to Malibu. We arrived in a classic Seattle rain. We checked into a hotel, drank a 6-pack of beer, watched TV, went to bed. We headed east the next day and stopped at Yellowstone National Park's Old Faithful Geyser. When we wanted to depart, the car wouldn't start. We were stranded. Dwayne improvised in the spontaneity of that moment. He sat in the Old Faithful Lodge and chatted up a cute female employee. I played fix-it guy out in the parking lot, and after several hours, the car started. I ran back to the lodge to alert Dwayne of the good news, but he was enthralled in every syllable of his new friend. I patiently waited for the conversation to break. "We gotta go," I said. "No, we don't. We're on vacation," he replied. "Yes, we do. I finally got the motor started." "No, we don't. It'll start again." Dwayne didn't want to bicker in front of his new friends, so we went outside to Old Faithful and discussed the situation diplomatically at 4 o'clock in the morning. He stood there and tried to shock the rarity of the situation into me. We have the most perfectly clear sky above us, and to this day I've never seen so many stars. We have money, and we have a single change of clothes. We're in no hurry to go anywhere. I was panicked that my car was stalled in the lot and no mechanic would know how to spell MG, let alone how to fix it. He reluctantly agreed. The rest of the trip home, he was filled with, had we stayed, remorse. The sky, the wildlife, the people, it was a lost opportunity he reminded me of over the past 20 years. He'd always encouraged me to loosen up and smell the roses along the way. He routinely chided me for being stuffy, which I find ironic. I was the stuffy guy in the relationship. I was a by-the-book kind of guy, where Dwayne was a write the book and should go along fella. I'll bet you didn't know that Dwayne was a comedy writer. I used to perform when I was younger, as Mike talked about, and Dwayne would help me write my jokes. He's been with me in countless stand-up sessions with his portable tape recorder and his notebook. In the parking lot outside, Dwayne would play the tape in his car after the show and give me feedback of what worked and what didn't. We'd write all kinds of new stuff together and giggle over coffee and cigarettes at a 24-hour restaurant. Most of my friends have never seen me perform, for I didn't want a charity laugh. I got a genuine, real response with Dwayne. And Dwayne would not laugh if stuff wasn't funny. He was honest, straightforward, and constructive. He never shied from giving advice, and his ability to brainstorm was epic. Another thing Dwayne never shied away from was a chance to be in unique situations. One summer day, Dwayne realized we had 3 days of no obligations. We spontaneously departed Minneapolis and drove to the rustic Canadian border, a 9-hour drive. We rented a canoe and brought fishing gear to the Boundary Waters canoe area and bought fishing gear for a camping trip. We thought the outdoors, fishing, and campfire would be great. When we arrived at the Canadian border, we paddled through a floating Canadian customs checkpoint. The guards thought we looked a bit underprepared for our 3-day campout. "Yo, better get paddling. Most of the campgrounds are taken." Taken? Taken, this is the rustic outdoors. We paddled and paddled and paddled and paddled and paddled and did more paddling. We ultimately found a campground on an island in the lake. Frankly, it was our last hope. Just as complete darkness set in, then came the rain, and then came the hunger. And thankfully, we brought 2 whole cans of pasta, but forgot the can opener. We went to sleep in the tent and hoped for a sunny morning. I awoke to Dwayne not being in the tent. He was desperately trying to light a fire with the rain-soaked wood on this desolate island. I quickly got equally frustrated. We paddled our canoe back through customs and abandoned our adventure. When we arrived at the outriggers, we parked the canoe on the shore, and it floated away while we debriefed. We turned around and saw the canoe 500 feet away. I'm being conservative. It was a very long way away. The wind had taken it, and without thinking like that, Dwayne sprinted into the ice-cold water, because really it never really thaws up there. It's always a little icy. You could hear gasps of pain with each breath he took in the frigid water. He hoisted himself up into the canoe like a champ. It was as though the canoe never tipped. And try, next time you get an opportunity, to just pull yourself into a canoe without a friend. You'll be out in the water for quite a while. A guide walked up to me during this and said, I have a motorboat, you know. Nobody's that crazy to swim in that water. So we revised our adventure. We ate breakfast in Grand Marais and later drove to Thunder Bay, Ontario, where the drinking age was 19, and so were we. We had fun. We pretended we were with the band, a completely fictitious group, and we met all kinds of strange people wanting to know about our phony musical success. We secretly cackled with laughter with each strange story we made up. Our hotel room was above the very shabby bar, Terry's Lounge. And Dwayne would sum up that trip every time we talked about it with 2 words: Terry's Lounge. And those 2 words still make me giggle, especially the way Dwayne would say them. We enrolled in UCLA together when we were both 33. We were the first group of folks to do an experiment with the National University of Singapore and UCLA to earn 2 MBAs over the course of 6 two-week sessions spread over 18 months. That's a mouthful. This pioneering experience was brutal, grueling, and rewarding. Each session was packed full of lecture, tests, and coursework, and the periods between the sessions were loaded with reading and research. We studied together, we were roommates. We leaned on each other heavily. We studied in Los Angeles, Singapore, and Shanghai. I wouldn't have done it if it were not for Dwayne. Were it not for his spontaneity, I would have passed that opportunity by. Our most recent opportunity for spontaneous adventure was Rag Ride, defined as the Register's annual Great Bicycle Ride across Iowa, held this Friday, July 24th, through the 31st. This bike ride is about 50 miles a day, 454 miles total. I thought it was just like going to Wisconsin, only flatter and longer. I called him to tell about the opportunity. He jumped at it. Dwayne bought a super premium bike, was in extensive training, and made an iPhone application for the journey. Here's one thing Dwayne was a bit pensive on, the bike shorts. He didn't want to attract the wrong kind of attention. They look fruity, he said. But I suppose 9,500 of the 10,000 people will be wearing them, so I can look collectively fruity. Apart from the shorts, Dwayne was excited. That excitement will not be realized by Dwayne, and I will ride across Iowa next week in his honor. A friend of mine wrote to me, "When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight." And that was by Cahill Gibran. Don't let the weight of your heart slow you down across Iowa. I'm sure Dwayne will be right by your side, pushing you along. Dwayne was loyal to me. He was always with me. He was side by side with me as kids, in play, in the MG, on stage, on the water, in class, and at this very moment. I will never forget Dwayne. Therefore, he's immortal. Dwayne will be with me on my ride, and he'll be with all of us for the rest of our lives. I also have some words that Mrs. Hitz had sent me that she wished to read. We, the parents of Dwayne Everett Hitz Jr., albeit absent in body, are with all of you in spirit, and thank you so much for being here this evening. There are so many things we do not understand. Why was our son taken so early? But from your many phone calls and emails, he was kinder, more magnanimous and generous and beautiful than even ever we knew. It would appear he packed 80 years of living into his short 40, and we are so consoled by hearing about all that he has done. Why is it, in the end, impossible for us to be with you tonight? As you know, Dwayne's dad had major reconstructive surgery of an abdominal aortic aneurysm a few weeks ago. Dwayne's death set us both realigned. For his dad, it was such a setback that by yesterday morning, it was concluded that Dwayne's dad could not come to Denver. And then, Frontier Airlines canceled its flights yesterday, with no other flights available on any airlines to anywhere nearby, at any price, until after the funeral. We considered driving from Florida, But calculating the hours and driving straight, nonstop, through with my daughter's family from Naples, Florida, there'd be no guarantee we could possibly make it home for the funeral, or make it in time for the funeral. As it turned out, Dad had a medical emergency last evening, and I would have been on a flight to Denver had things turned out as planned. I guess one Dwayne a week is enough to bury. You see, there are no coincidences with God, but I kind of suspect that our son, Dwayne Jr., might have had a hand in this too. Dad was so happy I was there. We would like to share a poem with you. What is dying? I am standing on the seashore. A ship at my side sets its white sails and heads out for the big blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength, and I watch at length until she fades like a small white speck of cloud, just to where sea and sky come to meet. And someone says, it's gone. Gone where? Gone from my sight, that's all. Just as big and beautiful and able as when it left my side. The diminished size is in my perception, not in the essence of the ship. And just at this moment, when someone said, it's gone, there are others watching it come in with joyful voices crying out, look, here he comes. And that is dying, my friends. That is dying.